Hi there, and welcome to my channel where we create all things in Excel VBA. Thank you for joining me today. This is the first in a series of short videos that will demonstrate and explain the setup, coding, and performance of an employee management tool using Excel VBA. Drop a comment down below if you have any questions. In this video, we will set up your data sheet and create a user form for capturing the data. So let's VBA. All right, so let's dive in and get started. The first thing you'll want to do once you decide you want to create this employee management file is in a new workbook that you have saved as a macro-enabled workbook, go ahead and insert three tabs here, three sheets. Name them Dashboard, Employees, and List. The dashboard will build at the very end, the user platform. But for employees, we'll start with this one. Now, for employees, this is where you're going to capture all of the data. This is where it's going to be stored. So you want to make sure to have columns that represent all of the information you want to collect. So for me, I have, their name, their employee number, their address information, phone number, email, date of birth, nationality, job title, department, reports to, and then I have the date they hired and the date they terminate, because we always want to keep the historical records even if they do leave the company. And then I always like to add a notes section. This is just good if you're going to add, any type of notes for that employee. Now, that's going to be on your employee tab. Now we'll look at our list tab. Our list tab is kind of a catch-all. It'll be hidden throughout all of this. But this is where we're going to put the information that will populate our drop-down menus that we're going to create. So since I'm capturing address information, I'll have all of the states listed. I'm going to go ahead and have a column of the leaders of the company, whoever people will be reporting to. I'll have a list of all the job titles, and I'll have a list of all the departments. Now, you can pre-populate this in advance, putting in all of the information here, but we're also going to build in a tool to this to where it will populate this list for you. So go ahead and take a minute to set up your sheets. All right, so now we have our columns set up on our list sheet. We now need to create our drop-down menus. So to do this, we're going to use named ranges. It's pretty simple. You just go up to Formulas tab and go to Name Manager and select New. And here you can name it. I want to name it by the column name, so it's already state, which is great. And I have a cool little formula that I use, and this is an offset formula. And basically, that's going to make this populate our dropdown without including the column header. And I can actually add up to 10,000 items onto this, and it will still continue to populate our dropdown. So here you can see the formula in full. So now we just need to create one for all of the columns. So now I'm just going to click New. And for this one, I'm going to put Reports to. And I'm just going to paste in my same one and change it to column B. Change all three references to column B, and I click OK. And you'll see when I click this, it's highlighting what is in my now named range. So go ahead and do that for the other three, and then we'll continue on. All right, so we have our named ranges set up. So now we're ready to dive in and start creating our user form. So you go to the Developer tab, then you go to Visual Basics, and the screen pops up here. Now you'll see on the left side in your project management view that you've got all of your sheets listed, but we want to go now and we want to go to Insert User Form. So this user form comes up, make it a little bit bigger, and I'm just going to show you a few techniques with this. First of all, you'll see it listed here. We want to name it in a way that it will let us know what it's about. And I have a lot of naming conventions you'll see that I use, but for forms, I always start out with FRM and then what it is. Now, when we do that, that's now the name of our form over here, but you'll see user form 1 is still here, and we don't really need that. So I'm going to come over here and change the caption to blank. Now you can name it something if you want, and it'll turn out up here, and that's fine. Now, I'm going to show you a few little things. First of all, we're going to use this toolbox. If you can't see the toolbox, simply go up to View, down to Toolbox, and this will show up. Sometimes it tends to disappear. In our toolbox, you'll see we have, like just like it sounds, all these tools. We have labels, text boxes, combo boxes, list boxes, all sorts of things. So let's go ahead and start off by using a text box. Now, remember, this is what the user is going to use to capture the data. So our data is what was in all of our columns on our employees sheet. And so with this, we want to make sure that we add in everything that is on that employee sheet, all the columns. So I've got a text box here, and here is a label that I'm going to put in here because we got to let the user know what information to put in here. So with the label, I'm going to come over here to caption, and I'm going to type in first name because that's what we need them to put there. Now, I'm just going to kind of, you can position it to whatever looks good for you. And in the text box, a couple of things that I want you to understand is you can change all sorts of things with this. Well, we will be changing the name later, but right now we're just going to kind of leave that. But you can change the font here. So they've got all sorts of font styles. Tahoma is kind of the standard. You can change, how it looks, and you can change the size. I'm going to change this to a size 10. Hit OK. Now, you can also, while you're in here, you can change the height of it. You can change the width of it. There's a lot of different things you can change using your properties bar. I'm just going to kind of leave it like that for now. Now, I don't like having to do double work, so I'm going to select both, copy, and I'm going to paste it. And with this, I'm going to go up to the label caption and type in last because we know we need a first and a last name. Now, we're going to build this out in full a little bit later, but I just want to show you a couple of tricks. So a combo box is what's going to be your drop-down menu. So you'll see it's got the little drop-down, right? Well, there's nothing in there right now. So I'm going to, first of all, label it so we know what we're looking at. And for this, I'm going to make this the job title. Well, that's great and all, but there's still nothing in our dropdown. Well, remember where we put in our named ranges, that's going to be what's called your row source. So if you come down here to row source, we're going to type in job title. And you'll see now all the job titles that you have are listed here. Now, I do recommend, since we made these bigger font, that you do the same thing. Keep it consistent. And so now you'll see the font's a little bit bigger. And you can resize your boxes to make everything work. It's pretty easy to do. Another tool that we are going to use on here is going to be a list box. Now, a list box is just that. It will hold a list. And when we're looking at our list box, you've got a few things. First of all, you've got the name, which once again, we'll do all the naming here in a little while. But you can also put how many columns. So if you decide you want to have one column, that's fine. Two, you can have 10, however many columns you need for the data that you want to show. And same thing, just to be consistent, I like to keep the same font size throughout. And also you can, change the height and the width, just like you can with the rest of them, or you can just click and drag, whatever you decide is easier. So these are kind of our main tools that we are going to have on our user form. And also one last one is going to be a button, and we're going to be using a command button. So here's our button. Same thing, you can name it, and you can name the caption on it. I'm going to put this as Save Employee. All right, and just like before, I'm going to change the font to a 10. And now we have a nice button that we'll be able to use. And, once again, you're going to resize things on however best it fits what you're doing. One other thing that I really like to do is I like to put a custom title on my user forms, and you do that using a label. So up here at the top, I'm going to draw out this box that stretches across. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say manage employees in our caption. But I want it to stand out, right? I want to make this look good. So I'm going to change the color. You can go to back color and I'm going to pick a color. Let's just pick this color here. And you can pick whatever color you'd like. I also want to make sure that we have our text aligned center. So that's going to be our middle one. And then I want to make this a lot bigger. We want to make sure that we can see this. Probably going to need to be pretty big. And there's our manage employees. So it's just kind of a neat little way to jazz it up in the final product. So we'll look, if we hit this play button up here, you will see that's what our user form currently looks like. And of course, nothing really works in it right now, but we're going to make that happen. So go ahead and take the time to fill in all the information that you need on the user form in relation to what's in your columns. All right, so I went in and I added all of the boxes and the fields and everything that is correlates to our employees sheet and all of the columns. You'll see first name, last name, address, city, all of that information. And I added in all the drop-down menus that correlate back to that sheet. You'll also notice on our sheet we had full name. I just put the first name and the last name, and I'm going to show you how we're going to make it to where they only have to enter that, and then it populates the sheet with both whenever we start doing our coding. Now you'll also see up here at the top, I added a way for us to search for employees. That will be done in Module 2. So our next video that we're going to do will be going over all of this. So, in the meantime, you can update yours to kind of look a little more like mine. So, when we look at this, though, a few things I want to point out is our naming convention. It is really important for you to name all of these boxes down here in a certain way. It will make your life easier in the long run. I learned a long time ago, I don't know why, but I've used reg. So, you'll see this one is reg 1. This one is Reg 2. This one, however, is Reg 4. But if you look at employee number, that one's Reg 3. That is because this is column 1 or column 2, this is column 3, and this one is the next column. So we name these in the order that they are in our columns. So then we had street address, city, all of this. So when you name them this way, when it comes time to add the employee or pull the information, it's super simple because it goes by the column number and the reg number that's on here. So you can move these wherever you want as long as they are named in order that they are in your columns on the employee sheet. Also, you'll see that I put for our buttons, I have CMD reset, CMD close. CMD is command, and so I just shorten it to that, and then we have save. And then up here at the top, I named these a little bit different. So this is what I called text lookup, so TXT lookup, and this is LST lookup. And this is CMD lookup, and then this is just a clear button. So your naming convention is really important for how it makes it easier when you're starting to code, but it also will make it your code go a lot smoother and be a lot shorter. All right, so once you have everything labeled, you want to make sure that you have your row source set for each of these. So we have, like for department, we go down here to our row source and we'll see we have department. Reports to, you'll see in our resource, I named mine reports. So you want to make sure that your drop downs are set up. Same thing with the state. You'll see we have states. Next thing is you want to make it easier on your user to be able to tab from one uh, box to another. So these are what's called tab stops. And so what we have to do is update the tab index. And see over here, the tab index. I'm going to make this one a 1, and this one will be a 2, and so on and so forth until you have all of these tabs indexes in there. So go ahead and make sure that you have your row source set for your drop downs, and make sure all of your tab indexes are in order that you will want them to tab to. So now we have our user form set up. We have our sheets set up. I know it seems like a lot here at the beginning, but setting everything up correctly will make the coding go much faster and be a lot smoother. I will drop a file down in this video that you can download that will basically be this user form and how I named everything for you to use for reference. But yeah, if you've hung with me this long, I appreciate your time, and I hope to see you back for our next video where we're going to go into coding to make this user